Okay, Rototom Sunsplash, this is day number 5. This is Piertosi. Back in the studio. We're broadcasting live from Benicasim, Rototom Sunsplash TV, and we have a very special guest with us, SONJAH STANLEY NIAAH from University of West Indies, Kingston, Jamaica. Welcome at Sunsplash TV. It's your second time on Rototom Sunsplash. You're having fun, you're enjoying the sessions of the Reggae University and the shows, of course.
Absolutely, and it's my pleasure to be back. Yes, it's my second time. My first time was in 2010. I came and I spoke at the Reggae University as well about my first book, Dancehall from Slave Ship to Ghetto. And what's fascinating is that I've come again this time around to talk about my forthcoming book, A Politics of Pilgrimage, Reggae Festivals and the Movement of Jah People. And it's so interesting because it was my first trip to Rototom Sunsplash that actually cemented the idea firmly in my mind to study reggae festivals globally. It's one of the things that's understudied, underrepresented in the academy, and so my interest is to document reggae festivals, mapping them, and I like to use the word mapping because maps are so important to me and have been important to me.
And so you're using different categories. A very fascinating one is the one of pilgrimage. It's coming from the Middle Age, and it's something that is about the faith and the passion, and it can fit very well to reggae people coming to festival as a real pilgrimage.
Yes. So this idea of pilgrimage, as you said, coming from the Middle Ages, but even I would say prior to that. And there is some baggage attached to that word, in fact. So I'm reclaiming the word pilgrimage, usually used in a context of the sacred to, highlight those persons, especially in a Muslim tradition, to return to Mecca as that context in which we know pilgrimage. But also, pilgrims have been associated with some very interesting things. Interesting in the sense of terror. Those persons, for example, who brought religion to Africa, I think of them as pilgrims, but that they didn't do necessarily positive things in all cases because religion went hand in hand with a history of slavery. So I'm reclaiming that word, pilgrimage, and I'm using it in a context of an enlightened context, I would say, to highlight the way in which reggae musicians, being pilgrims themselves, have brought the music all over the world, and people travel all over the world as pilgrims themselves to consume reggae music. So I use that word and I claim that word in the book, A Politics of Pilgrimage. And the politics, of course, is the way in which reggae, the movement of people across the globe for the consumption of reggae music, has created a community of people. A reggae worldwide web of music is what I call it. And the fact that there is the politics around marijuana usage, there's a politics around the liberation struggles that the music has in fact encountered, and have also encountered human rights struggles in terms of the clash with even gay rights. And so the book delves into all of that.
And you did deconstruct the notion of festival, and you did start from the first popular festival that was the Reggae Sunsplash, having place until the end of the 70s at Jarrett Park in Mo Bay.
Yes.
So what's the common points and the differences between that very first gathering having place in Jamaica and the common notion of festival you did discover, if there is a common notion? Because I think you did study hundreds of festivals all over the world with lots of difference between them.
Yes, so what's fascinating, of course, is that 1978 we get the mother of all festivals, I would say the best known festival. Everybody references Reggae Sunsplash. And what we don't know is that there were other reggae events in the world. I mean, Reggae Gilles in Belgium, for example, has a long history. And there are many, many, many events calling themselves festivals. So what I had to do was to define festival. why are people using this term? What is it about these events that would make them be called festivals? Because when you look at the definition of festival in the way that academics around the globe have studied it, you find that there are many types of festivals. Some of them are 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, Rototom Sunsplash, 8, 9, 10 days. And their duration would be one type of thing to encounter, but also the themes, what are they celebrating? So we have various kinds of festivals, for example, being listed as reggae festivals. They are sometimes centered around hemp, sometimes centered around roots, back to Africa festivals, roots festivals. There are festivals that are centered around particular places, celebrating place, celebrating space. And those things are very significant, that there is an association between reggae and these multiplicity, these multiple elements, place, space, themes, celebratory things that are related to the entire spectrum of living, is what I would say. And so the definition of festival becomes important in the same way that the definition of reggae becomes important, because what I had to do, not take for granted that reggae meant music. Reggae is an entire lifestyle. And people, what I did in this book was to get the opinions of people. What does reggae mean to you? What do you understand reggae to mean? And that informed, to a large extent, what I had to deconstruct in terms of understanding reggae and translating that in the context of the book.
And for our listeners, again, what is the title of the book and what will be the publishing company?
So the title of the book is A Politics of Pilgrimage, Reggae Festivals and the Movement of Jah People. I'm hoping this book will be published in the early part of 2014, if not before, and I'm waiting to hear back from the publishers. So as soon as that is all finalized, another announcement clearly. And in fact, my blog, dancehallgeographies.wordpress.com, I have a link on that blog for my research on reggae festivals. So I'd like people to check out my blog as well.
Would like to end this interview this way, like dancehall is your favorite field.
Dancehall is my principal form of entertainment.
Yeah. And
dancehall has been my largest body of research, and of course dancehall is a progeny of reggae. So you study dancehall, you can't leave reggae out, and that's been very important. In fact, when I went to school, even though my first degree is in geography and that was my first love, history was not as important, but when I started my PhD and the research on dancehall and reggae, obviously, history became very important.
But how you're conciliating your role as a researcher and the fact you're a fan of the dancehall music?
I think it makes it so much more exciting. What academics might say is that there is a lack of objectivity, but what objectivity is there as a researcher anyway? I think we've thrown that out in the context of the academy for quite some time. What is important though is that the work that you're doing is substantial and substantiated, and you are seen to be objective in the kind of evidence you marshal to support your work, and that's what's amazing.
Okay, thank you very much, and again my compliments for your work. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you so much.